Hi, my name is Craig Arvston, and I'm a financial advisor here with Prosperian. I'd like to welcome you to this week's episode of Prosper On. Recently, my nephew graduated from high school out in California, and I sent him a graduation gift, and he sent me a nice thank you card. So let me just read the bottom of the card, and it kind of sets the tone for the rest of this. I really admire all the adrenaline-pumping activities you have done, whether it was paragliding, a huge bike trip, or heli-skiing. I plan on doing many of those things when I grow up. It's nice to know that you're still alive. Thank you, sincerely, Eric Campbell. And that kind of is a nice segue into a recent trip my son and I took to Italy. And we flew into Rome, and we spent a few days in Rome, then rented motorcycles, and we rode from Rome to up through Tuscany to the coast, to up the coast a little bit, and then headed over to Lake Como, up into the Alps, to the Dolomites, and then down to Venice, and then east across to Verona and Milan. So about 1,200 miles, and we had just a wonderful time. It took us 7 days to do the trip, and we saw a lot of beautiful country. If you motorcycle at all, you'd appreciate the beautiful roads we were on. They're long, curvy, through the hills, and a lot of them are tree lined. We would go through tunnels that were 3 miles long. So just spectacular scenery and a great time. And and I would say it's one of those kind of trips that has changed me, and how it has is that it's given my son and I tremendous opportunity to bond over an adventure that we had together, and then also it's kind of whet my appetite for further motorcycle adventure trips, and so I'm looking forward to that. But how we got there is pretty exciting and pretty crazy, because it's not your typical type of trip. I've never ridden a motorcycle before. I've never been outside the country before, other than to a little bit Mexico and Canada. And so the idea of doing something like that just with my son and I was a big risk. And it was one of those things where, it's just, every time you think about it, you just go, how crazy of an idea it was. And so I'd say the beginning of June is when we started to plan the trip. And I came up with the idea of doing motorcycles just because we were going to be there. It was a great time for Colin and I to spend time together. It would be something that he would enjoy. And so, but I had never ridden a motorcycle. And so in 1 month, I had to figure out how to get up to speed. So I ended up taking a motorcycle safety course. I ended up buying a motorcycle, riding it on weekends and during the week to work, and just trying to get as much experience in that week as possible, or as much experience as possible. I picked a name, as far as we're going to rent motorcycles in Italy, well, do you rent them from Hertz? Do you rent them from National? So I went on Google, did a Google search, motorcycle touring Italy. First name on the list was CIMT, Central Italian Motorcycle Tours. They're as good as any. I sent some emails back and forth, took some time to get responses, paid the deposit, and we were good to go. And so we flew to Rome, spent a few days just touring around Rome. We went to Pompeii. But the Monday morning when we were going to go pick up the motorcycles, up until then I was a little nervous. Did I send the money in? Or do we have a reservation and everything else? And so we showed up, and I was happy to see Francesco there. I was happy to see the motorcycles were there, and so that got the trip going. This, as far as this was a great lesson for just anything people do. Whenever you're going to tackle something that's out of the ordinary, is going to get resistance. And the same thing here. When I told friends and family members that we're going to do this trip, they thought I was crazy. They looked at me when I bought the motorcycle, are you an idiot? And so, the initial reaction is negative. And then that all of a sudden then translates into second guessing. Am I doing the right things? And so on. But I knew the rewards would be worth it. I knew the time that, and I would always refer to it, I said, if we can pull this off, it'll be a home run. And so anyway, so that's what we did. We, bought the motorcycle, took the lessons, and did the proper planning and training, and and did some things right, did the research. My son and I had intercoms, so we were able to talk to each other back and forth. That was a huge, that was a big advantage on the trip. We had GPS, that was another home run. But, you know, anytime you take a risk, the rewards I knew would be just tremendous, and they absolutely were. And you know, it's easy not to do things because you don't feel like you can, you don't feel like it's possible, you think you're going to be judged. But at the end of the day, all that was secondary, because right now I can look back on this trip, and I'll do it for a long time, and I'll say what a wonderful time it was. We saw some things. It changed how the way I want to do travel in the future. You know, I don't really have, I'd like to, you know, I think the motorcycle is the only way to travel. It's easy, it was straightforward. You get to be part of the country. You get to stop when you want to stop, and you feel like you're part of everything. And I like that. And then I have the experience with my son that we did an adventure, we made it work. Together we made it work, and so the rewards were perfect. So I would just want to encourage anybody to, you know, to kind of think outside the box. You know, don't do things reckless, but think outside the box. Try to do something that's, that you know you can accomplish, and, but is on the edge. And I think that when that happens, you'll realize that at the end of that, you will have gone to the next step, and so the next adventure be that much better than the previous adventure. So I'd like to thank you for listening this morning. I appreciate that, and best wishes on your journeys of the future.